To me, it's the blind leading the blind. Kyrie has proven to all of us that he's not a leader.
I'm incredibly disappointed in Kyrie Irving right now.
Let me say this straight up and down. I think Kyrie Irving should retire.
The NBA doesn't like players who think for themselves. And if you don't believe that, just look at Kyrie Irving. One minute he's a superstar. The next he's public enemy number one. Not because of his game, but because he refuses to follow the script. The media tore him apart. The league distanced itself. And for a stretch of his career, no matter what happened in the NBA, Kyrie Irving was always the villain. But even now, with Kyrie having one of his best seasons, his success isn't talked about nearly as much as it should be. It's almost like, ever since these past events, the media coverage around him has never fully shifted back in his favor.
To me, it's been a struggle for Kyrie. To be a leader, to be the person that sort of takes the leadership and to lead the team. He struggled a little bit with that.
Kyrie Irving's skill set is unreal. His ball handling, his shot making, his ability to finish at the rim. There's not a defender in the NBA that could figure him out. Think back to the 2016 finals, Game 7. A moment etched into NBA history. Kyrie versus Steph Curry on the wing. The shot that effectively sealed the Cavs' first ever championship. That shot should be the defining highlight of Kyrie's career, like Ray Allen's corner three or Michael Jordan's final shot in '98. But instead, for over a decade, his name has been tied more to controversy than basketball.
You may have been seeing a lot of headlines having to do with one of the best basketball players in the world, Kyrie Irving, that have nothing to do with basketball. We're about to get into that now.
And yes, now one of the biggest names in sports facing backlash for spreading anti-Semitism. NBA star Kyrie Irving of the Brooklyn Nets shared a link last week on social media to a 2018 film that's been described as anti-Semitic.
Turn on any major debate show, scroll through social media, or flip through any social news channel on YouTube. It's the same narrative. Kyrie the headache. Kyrie the locker room cancer. Kyrie the distraction. Why? Why does a player with such high basketball IQ, a champion, a multiple-time All-Star, get dragged into an endless cycle of negative coverage? Here's the thing. Kyrie isn't the first, and he won't be the last. The NBA has a pattern, shaping public perception, building up stars while tearing others down. We've seen it happen time and time again. One day, you're the future of the league. The next, the media paints you as the villain. And once that label sticks, it's nearly impossible to shake. A 2022 analysis found that Kyrie Irving received over 793,000 social media reactions, with only 38% being positive, ranking him amongst the most criticized NBA players in the league. For a champion, a multiple-time All-Star, and one of the most electrifying players in the NBA, that's kind of wild. So what's really going on? Let's break it down. Have you ever noticed how some players get endless praise, huge brand deals, and pristine narratives, while others just can't catch a break? Even when their on-court performances are stellar. It's almost like the NBA is a Hollywood studio, casting players in roles to create a better show. Early in his career, Kyrie was the NBA's golden child. He was named Rookie of the Year in 2012. He even cultivated the Uncle Drew persona, which even casual fans loved. The league promoted him as Cleveland's future, the guard who would eventually take the keys from LeBron James. But the moment he made decisions that didn't fit the league's preferred storyline, the media narrative flipped instantly. Leaving Cleveland, suddenly he was selfish, ungrateful, and tired of living in LeBron's shadow. In Boston, he was labeled as the locker room cancer and a bad leader. In Brooklyn, he was a distraction, a liability for the league, hard to coach. Yet, if you look at the raw numbers, Kyrie's been consistently dominant. Over these last few years, across multiple teams, he's averaged over 25 points a game, with elite shooting splits, often flirting with an elusive 50-40-90. But the headlines don't highlight Kyrie Irving drops 40. The headlines would prefer to push Kyrie Irving skips media session again. Unfortunately, controversy drives clicks. And Kyrie, whether by design or circumstance, became the NBA's walking headline generator. If you think Kyrie's the only player who's experienced whiplash, think again. The NBA has a history of building up stars only to tear them down once they step outside the approved lines. Just look at Allen Iverson, an icon, a league MVP in the face of a cultural shift in basketball. But once the off-court narratives, his style, his practice comments, his refusal to conform, clashed with the NBA's corporate image, he was eventually pushed out the league while he still had the skills to contribute. But let's be specific. Why Kyrie? Plenty of other athletes speak their minds too, yet Kyrie seems to permanently occupy the media's hot seat. Kyrie has never been one to shy away from unconventional viewpoints, like his flat view comments.
When I started actually doing research on my own and figuring out that there is no real picture of Earth, like there's not one picture of Earth, and we haven't been back to the moon since 1961 or 1969, and you start, and then it becomes like conspiracy theory.
Whether he was trolling or not, it challenged standard narratives. Fast forward a few years, and you have the vaccine controversy.
So people are getting sick left and right. And for me, I'm just trying to be just a person that's being a beacon of hope and light, and just trying to shed as much as I can on the situation without talking myself into more BS and what's going on in this political world that we're in right now. And I just don't want to bring science into this.
Kyrie took a stance that sidelined him for a chunk of a season, infuriating sports talk shows everywhere. If you zoomed out, you see a pattern, and the pattern is really simple. Kyrie refuses to just fall in line. Then came the infamous tweet, a link to a controversial film, resulting in the massive media firestorm.
You guys are asking me, respectfully, to speak on something that was a documentary that I had nothing to do with. I didn't make it. Just because I posted a documentary doesn't mean I'm anti-Semitic.
The Brooklyn Nets suspended him, and the NBA placed him under a microscope. Now, compare that to how the league has handled owners who have been investigated for racial or abusive behavior. Over the past decade, at least 5 owners have been under the fire, yet only one, Donald Sterling, was forced to sell his team. So is Kyrie truly the NBA's biggest threat, or is the league using him as a convenient scapegoat? It's easier to paint one outspoken player as the villain than to tackle the behavior of powerful owners or systemic issues. The headlines that show Kyrie's positive moments rarely make the news. He's given millions, helped WNBA players, and supported social causes.
Irving is starting a fund with $1.5 million for players who decide to sit out of the season.
Paid college tuition.
He might be a rival of our 76ers, but kudos to Brooklyn Nets star Kyrie Irving. His tuition gift to the students was part of his foundation's 11 days of giving.
But his controversies always gets more attention. So let's zoom out. What did Kyrie's journey really tell us about the NBA and the sports media machine? The NBA might be a sports organization, but it's also a massive entertainment empire. It's built on narratives that keep fans glued. Heroes, villains, redemption arcs, and more. If a player is easy to market, think Steph Curry, Giannis, or LeBron. They thrive in that uplifting spotlight. But if a player constantly steps out of line or challenges the system, they risk it being cast as an antagonist. Recently, even Bron talked about why no one wants to be the next face of the league. Kyrie's story is a perfect example. The league capitalized on the Uncle Drew phenomenon as long as it was good for business. But once Kyrie no longer fit the NBA's corporate comfort zone, he became the scapegoat. Every soundbite dissected, every off-court stance magnified. It's the ideal recipe for a never-ending media saga. Yes, Kyrie has had missteps, but why do they get blown up to the point where it overshadows his entire legacy? Meanwhile, other controversies fade quickly. Some players or owners barely see that fraction of scrutiny. So here's the million-dollar question. So what does this really tell us about the NBA? This isn't just about Kyrie. The NBA isn't just about basketball. It's about image, control, and narratives. They'll back you as long as you're good for business, but the second you step outside the script, they'll turn you into a cautionary tale. Alright, so what do y'all think? Is Kyrie really the problem, or did the NBA write his story for him? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you found videos like this interesting, you need to check out one of my other videos on the NBA's biggest secret, on if the game is actually rigged. We broke down how refs, league execs, or even players have hinted that the NBA isn't always as fair as it seems. From superstar calls to suspicious Game 7s or playoff series that felt scripted, the video exposes the pattern that makes people question if the game is really just a sport or a business. So if you want to see how the league's biggest stars and biggest moments might not be as random as they seem, head over to that video next. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next breakdown. We're only scratching the surface, and trust me, there's plenty more to dissect about the NBA. Peace.